Greetings to all my fellow watch enthusiasts on YouTube and Facebook and wherever else this video is being seen and shared. It's Lean Driver once again, coming to you with a different video idea. I wanted to do a comparison between three different models of Zelos watches, probably the three most famous, or in one case infamous, versions of their Big Diver watches. The Big Diver watch lines being the Hammerhead line, all-inclusive, the Hammerhead, the Steels, and the Hammerhead 2 and the Hammerhead 2 Chronos, and the Abyss line, the 3,000 meter divers. These are the watches that kind of, from what I've been seeing out on the interwebs and the forums and everything, they're kind of either a love it or a hate it proposition. I mean, either the people love these big watches or they hate them. And I found that most of the hate and shade being thrown at these watches is that the people actually like them, but they can't wear them, or so they claim. Which I find kind of funny because, yes, they are rather thick watches, but in terms of diameter of the case and lug-to-lug measurement, they're not that big a deal of a watch, which I hope to demonstrate. So I have three watches here. I have my very first Zelos, the Hammerhead 1 in bronze, with the meteorite interface. Shout out to my favorite Croatian, Devor, who bought this watch, and it was his video that of this watch that inspired me to buy my first Zelos, which was this exact model. We have a Hammerhead 2, which in this case is represented by my Hammerhead 2 chronograph, because I don't have a Hammerhead 2 non-chronograph in my hands, although I have made a couple of videos. So if you want to check those out specifically, please feel free to look through my videos and take a look at the two that I've reviewed. And of course I have my Abyss 3, which was a birthday present from my folks just recently. And I very much love this watch. Quick wristwatch check. I am wearing my Rolex GMT Master with the Coke bezel. This was my father's watch, and he had some problems with it. Bought himself, this was originally a Pepsi, by the way. He bought himself another GMT Master 2 with a Pepsi bezel and gave this to me and said, if you can get it fixed, have at it, and you can keep it. So thank you, Dad. A very precious watch to me. I'm not giving it up. So let's make some comparisons. Let's compare Hammerhead versus Hammerhead 2. You can see that the lineage, obviously, from Hammerhead to Hammerhead 2. Bezel designs are roughly the same, the faceted case sides, I should say. They are very similar watches. I mean, the Hammerhead 2 was certainly an evolution of the Hammerhead, not a revolution. So they are very similar watches with respect to that. It does appear to my admittedly not so great eyesight that the bezel is a bit thinner on the 2, and that the crystal area, or the viewing area, subsequently is a bit bigger on the Hammerhead 2 versus the Hammerhead 1. If I had a Hammerhead 2 without the chronograph, you'd see that the crowns are very similar, although you can see that the crowns are very similar in size, even though they're located in a different place. On the Hammerhead 2 non-chronographs, the crown is located at the 4 o'clock. Bezel action is very chunky on this one, as you can hear, and if you have one, you can feel it. Certainly a bit louder and more boisterous on the 2, but the same. It takes a bit of effort to turn them, and it feels very, very clicky and very, very solid on both of them. So very similar in terms of bezel feel. Now, if you look at a Hammerhead versus an Abyss 3, you can see, again, the case sizes are similar, but no faceting on the Abyss. It's a sheer flank, to be sure, but a smooth flank. And the bezel size in terms of thickness, from here to here, is similar on both watches. Bezel action on the Abyss is very similar to the other 2 watches, very boisterous, very loud, very positive. And they all line up great. Crown sizes are very similar as well. Viewing area is very similar between these 2 watches. The size of the crystal and the viewing area of the watch face is very similar across both. So what do we got in terms of Hammerhead 2 statistics? Well, they're both 1,000-meter divers, both rated at 1,000 meter. They both have 44mm cases. They both have 22mm lug width. Believe it or not, this one is a 49mm tip to tip, whereas this one is a 48, and you can see the drop off is much more distinct in the Hammerhead 2 versus the Hammerhead. And they are definitely different on the thickness. This one is about 17mm thick. This one is 20.5mm thick. Now that includes the measurement for the crystal on both of them. I don't understand measuring the thickness of a watch and not including the crystal. That to me seems nonsensical. The movements, of course, are very different. This is a NH35, and this particular model, this is the NH35 movement, and this one is the Selita SW. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong. This is the Valjoux 7750 chronograph movement. So most of the important bits and pieces are similar between. Now, as far as comparing a Hammerhead 2 to an Abyss 3, obviously we have a 1,000-meter diver here. We have a 3,000-meter diver here. Excuse me, I'm just moving my notes a little bit so I can read them. This is a 44mm case. This is a 43mm case. They both have 22mm lug width. This is a 48 on the tip to tip, but this one is a 51mm tip to tip. And of course, this being a 20.5mm thick, this one is very similar, believe it or not, at 20, according to my caliber, 20.75 or 20.75mm thick. And you can see it's very similar. And this one, as I said, uses the Valjoux 7750 chronograph movement. This one uses the Selita SW260 movement. Now, the non-turbine versions of this use the SW200 movement. This one uses the 260 movement because of the subdial for the second hand. So, very, very similar watches in terms of size and thickness and lug width, and the only real big difference is the tip to tip, where this one is 3 whole millimeter bigger. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but for some people that's going to be the make or break measurement, is the tip to tip measurement. And you can see the thickness is very similar, side to side, like that. I'll give you a wrist shot of all of them. real quick. Let's go with the first Hammerhead. There we go. Sorry, but have to do that off camera. I realize that's, generally a bad thing, but it's also the leather strap is still quite stiff. So you can see there's the wrist shot of the first generation Hammerhead. Now obviously on my 7.25-inch wrist, all these watches are going to fit just fine because I have a wrist size that's going to be able to take this. I mean, I do not have a smaller wrist like, say, Mark from Long Island Watch or Tristano from Urban Gentry, who have sub 7-inch wrists. I'll put on the I'm putting on the Hammerhead 2. You can see that fits very nicely on me. It is a thick watch. I mean, I admit it's a thick watch. This is not something you're going to be able to fit under a dress cuff or anything, but the short lug width really helps with this watch being more versatile than most people think it is. And finally, we'll put on the Abyss, which, again, I am so grateful for this. Was a great birthday present, and my dad definitely pulled a fast one on me. I really thought he bought this watch for himself. And there you go. There's the big boy. This is definitely, in terms of thickness, this is the thickest watch I own by a good bit. Well, not a good bit. I mean, we determined this watch isn't too much thinner, only about 1/4 of a millimeter, but this does rate as the thickest watch I own. So there you go. There's a good comparison. I hope you believe it's a good comparison between the three. And I'll put my Rolex back on. A good comparison between three of the biggest watches that Zelos makes. I mean, this is the biggest watch Zelos makes here, the Abyss 3. I might do a couple more of these. I think maybe another natural comparison would maybe be the Swordfish versus the Mako. I mean, those are the small and intermediate sized dive watches that Zelos makes, and I certainly have a few of each of those to compare to, but that'll be for another video. If you guys like this video, then I'll make that video. So if you did like the video, give me a thumbs up. Give me some encouragement to make more videos like this, because I like comparisons. I like comparison videos, so I think I'll do more of them if I get good reception on this one. Also, clicking the like button also helps my channel with the algorithms. Comments, questions, suggestions down below. I read them all. I answer them all. I do delete the negative and nasty stuff, and I block the poster because my life is too short for that crap. If you're new to the channel, or you've been here a while and you haven't already done so, what are you waiting for? Click the red subscribe button. It takes you literally 1/10 of a second. It doesn't cost you anything. Click the bell icon next to it. It takes another 1/10 of a second. Doesn't cost you anything. And it alerts you to when I post new content. And I appreciate the supporters of my channel. I really do. You've helped turn this into a nice little, fun hobby for me, a little nice little enterprise. I'm enjoying it. I hope to keep you all entertained, especially during the time that this video was made, where many of us are going through a tough time of it. I hope my videos have helped entertain you a little bit during these times. Everyone stay safe, stay well, wash your hands, keep a good distance from each other. We'll get through this. Have a good day. See you soon.